Hi everyone, good evening to all. I hope you all are doing good. Okay, so without any further delay, let's start today's class. In today's class, we will discuss software engineering subject where particularly we are going to study the evolutionary model which comes under software development lifecycle model. Okay, so let's start evolutionary model of software development SDLC models. Okay, so many models are there like waterfall model, iterative model, incremental model, spiral model, rapid application development, rad model, agile model. So many models are there. So in today's session we will discuss evolutionary model. Okay, so first of all, evolutionary model, let's get a brief idea about it. Evolutionary model is nothing but, first, it is a combination of iterative model and incremental model. Iterative model and incremental model, I hope you all have idea about iterative model and incremental model, because in previous classes you have also, we all have idea about these models. So still, I will discuss iterative and incremental model in today's class. Iterative model, basically it is the advanced version of traditional waterfall model. Okay, we can say enhanced part of traditional first model of the software development life cycle. Iterative model is the enhanced part of waterfall model. So basically what happens in waterfall model, it follows the process, a step by step process. Means if one phase of SDLC life cycle is completed, we can't go back to that phase. And after completion of all phases, lastly it delivered to the customer, and after that customer gives feedback to the software developer. But in iterative model, it is the advanced version of the waterfall model where little bit modification are there, little bit modifications are there here in iterative model. So let's see a diagram here so that it will be clear to all of you. Here you can see in the incremental model, same phases are there which was present in the waterfall model. Okay, so what are those phases? First we collect the requirement, then analysis part, requirement collections, analysis, specification part, analysis and specification part, then designing part, then testing part, then implementation part. And then what was happening in the waterfall model, basically after the implementation part, then directly we go for the deployment or maintenance part. But here what happens in iteration 1, you can see first iteration 1 here, after the completion of the implementation part, we send it to the customer for review. Okay, so after the review process is done, then if we get some feedback from the customer, then we go for the iterative 2 by collecting the lack points according to the suggestions from the customer. Okay, customer's feedback. Then we again go for the part where there is some lack. Okay, so suppose customer says that there is some lack point in the designing part, then also testing, then implementation, then review. So finally in iteration 2, by collecting the feedback from the customer, we go for the iteration 2 where we redesign it, then retesting it, then implementation, then after the implementation again we send it to the customer. And again if we get some other feedback, some other type of feedback, some other type of suggestions from the customer, by collecting those feedbacks, again we go for the iteration 3. We will repeat this iteration, means repeat a loop. We will repeat this process, um, till customer gets satisfaction. Okay, if customer is satisfied, then we stop this. Okay, and if customer is not satisfied, then we repeat this process. That's why known as iteration. It's known as iteration, means we repeat it iteration wise. We if we follow the process again and again. That's why it is known as iterative model. In iteration 3, again by collecting the feedback from the customer, we go for the phases like designing, testing, implementation, review. And here suppose customer is completely satisfied, then we stop here, then we go for the deployment part, then maintenance part. Okay, so this basically happens in the iterative model, which was the advanced version of the traditional waterfall model. But here we can see that it is a combination. It is not only iterative model, it is also a combination of incremental model. So what happens basically in incremental model? So incremental model, actually what happens, we don't deliver the complete product or complete product or project to the customer. Here we divide a large product to the small models or modules, small modules, small parts. Then we focus on that individual part, sub individual module. We focus on that module, then we first complete that module, then we deliver that particular module, not the complete product, the first module to the customer, then we collect the feedback from the customer. Okay, so after the completion of the whole product, then the incremental model is completely over. Means suppose we not design the whole product in one way, we we divide the complete product to the small modules, then we focus on the individual module to first to develop that individual module, then we deliver that module to the customer. If module 2 is completed, then we deliver to the customer. If module 3 is completed, then we deliver to the customer. So likewise we develop the incremental model. You can see here in incremental model, design and development for yes, one important part here in incremental model, here requirements part is freezed completely. We can't change the requirements part here. After the requirements after the requirements phases, we can modify the other phases like design and development part, then testing part, then implementation part. Here a completely large product we divide into the small module. We focus on the individual module. Suppose 3 modules we have divided here, a complete module is divided into small modules. Suppose 3 modules, first we focus on the module number 1 to complete it successfully. Okay, I think you are getting my point. First we complete on the one module to complete it successfully, then we go for the other module. Okay, what happens basically here, so that the developing process is more than easier than the other models. Okay, so this is the structure of the incremental model. We can't go for the complete designing or complete development of the software. We divide a complete software into small modules, then we focus on the individual module to develop it. Okay, so this is the brief idea about the incremental model. And here basically you can see here iterative and incremental model. This model divides the development cycle into smaller incremental waterfall model, in which user can get access to the product at the end of the cycle. Okay, incremental model or iterative model, incremental waterfall model or iterative model. Okay, we I already gave the brief idea about it. Okay, same thing is written here. This model suggests the breaking down of whole complete breaking down of the work into the smaller chunks. So this part happens in the incremental model. Okay, and iterative model, we follow the phases of the waterfall model, which is the enhancement part of the traditional waterfall model basically. Yeah, okay, so let's see the diagram here. That is the diagram for the evolutionary model. Okay, so evolutionary model, we follow the process of the iterative model. Iterative model process is what? Requirement specification part, collection part, then after specify the requirement, then we go for the designing part. Okay, then designing part, then implementation part, then testing part, implementation part, then deployment part. Okay, so here rough requirement specification, roughly we get the requirement, then specify it, analyze it, then identify the core and other parts to be developed incrementally, because it is the incrementally means module wise. We design the product, whole product, by module wise, not the whole product. We divide a large project or large module software into the small part. That's why it is written here incrementally. Okay, then develop the core part using an iterative model. Why? Because in iterative model we have all the process systematically. Iterative waterfall model here we follows. Then we collect the customer feedback definitely. You can see here, after the completion of the one iteration, then we send it to the customer for collecting the feedback. And again, if there is some lag point, then we go for the iteration 2, and if still there is some lag point, then we go for the iteration 3. So it happens basically in iterative model. Okay, so here then collect the customer feedback and modify the requirements. And again you can see the arrow mark here. If we collect some feedback and for modifying the requirements, we again go back to the process, then iterative wise, loop wise, we reconsider it, redesign it. Okay, and again we deliver it to the customer. That's why here this is totally iterative waterfall model concept. And incremental concept wise, we actually divide the whole product into module wise. Okay, so when we combine these modules, then evolutionary model is created. Okay, so finally develop the next identified features using an iterative waterfall model, then we go for the maintenance part. So basically it happens in the evolutionary model. Okay, so let's discuss the some part advantages and disadvantages of the evolutionary model. So advantages part, here the customer requirements are clearly specified because we collect feedback from the customer. So that's why it is an we can take it from the advantages part. Okay, so risk analysis here is better. It is also good for large project or large critical project. And we also can say that it also reduces the cost of the deployment or cost of the development, reduces the cost of development. And it also reduces the errors, because the core modules get tested thoroughly. Okay, we can take it from advantages part. Okay, so still there are some disadvantages part. What are the disadvantages part? It is costly. Okay, and it is also not suitable for small project. And sometimes it is very difficult to divide a large problem or large software to the several part, means module wise. So that's why it comes under disadvantages part. Okay, so it is highly skilled resource persons or resources are required here. Okay, so these are all the disadvantages part. So basically I think I hope that you all have a brief idea about the evolutionary model. Okay, so here advantages and disadvantages part is completely here. So in next class we are going to study about the spiral model, which is basically known for the risk analysis model, where we analyze risk actually. Okay, so this much for today's class. Thank you everyone for your support, and if you honestly like this video or like this lecture, you can hit the like button. Thank you all.